The armor lay in the corner of the room, half hidden beneath layers of dust and old blankets. A relic of a time long before Earth had even learned to look to the stars. It was an ancient thing, forged in metals that shimmered like liquid silver, with intricate patterns that pulsed faintly in the dim light. To anyone who didn't know better, it was just a forgotten treasure, a piece of history that belonged to a race far older and more powerful than humanity could ever comprehend. But to her, it was something else entirely. Her people had warned her to never let anyone near it. It wasn't just armor. It was a key. A key to powers that could change the course of history. Powers that no one, least of all a human, should ever possess. But that didn't stop the thoughts from swirling in her mind. She was bored. Earth had been predictable. Her time here, hiding among these fragile, flawed humans, had stretched on for longer than she'd planned. They were curious creatures, yes, and amusing in their way. But after centuries of observing them from the shadows, she couldn't help but wonder what would happen if one of them tried on the armor. She knew it was dangerous. She knew it was a mistake. But the idea was too tempting to ignore. Her eyes flicked over to the human sitting in the chair across from her, an easy grin playing on his lips as he chattered away about some trivial thing that had happened in his day. He was like the others, curious, brave, and annoyingly optimistic. Despite her better judgment, she liked him. She had grown accustomed to his presence over the months they'd spent together, an unlikely friendship born out of mutual curiosity. "You ever wonder what it'd be like to be someone else?" she asked, her voice light, casual. She watched him tilt his head, a puzzled look crossing his face, like a different person, or like another species. He replied, giving her a confused smile. "Another species," she clarified, leaning back in her chair and glancing at the armor in the corner. "What if you could be someone more powerful? Someone who could do things you couldn't even imagine?" His eyes followed her gaze, narrowing in thought. "Are you talking about that?" he said, nodding toward the armor. "You really think it's something special?" She hesitated for a moment. "I think it's more special than you know." He chuckled, shaking his head. "I don't know, it looks kind of old, you know? Like ancient relic kind of old." "That's exactly what it is," she said, her voice quieter now. "But it's not just old, it's alive." He raised an eyebrow. "Alive? What? Like some kind of magic?" She almost laughed, but caught herself. Magic wasn't a concept her people had ever fully understood, but it was close enough. The armor was woven from materials that didn't exist anywhere on Earth. It responded to the thoughts of its wearer, adapting itself to enhance their abilities, bringing out the hidden strengths they didn't even know they had. It was alive in the way a tool is to its master, intelligent, attuned, responsive. But humans didn't understand that kind of power. They never had. And she had no intention of letting one of them try. Still, there was something about him. The way he spoke, the way he carried himself. She couldn't put her finger on it, but something about him felt different. Maybe it was his relentless optimism, the way he faced everything with a kind of naive confidence. Or maybe it was just the fact that, after all these years of living among humans, she was starting to wonder if they might have something worth protecting after all. "I'll tell you what," she said, a playful glint in her eye. "If you think it's just a pile of junk, why don't you try it on?" He stared at her, blinking in disbelief. "You're serious?" "Why not?" she said with a shrug. "It'll be a good laugh. I promise you won't get hurt." He hesitated for a moment, glancing back at the armor, then met her eyes. "All right, fine. I'll bite." She grinned, feeling an unexpected rush of excitement. It was, after all, just a joke. Just a bit of fun. Nothing more. As he approached the armor, she noticed his hesitation. The way his hands lingered over the gleaming surface, as if something instinctual told him to be careful. It was strange. Humans had no real understanding of the forces at play here. But some part of them always sensed when something was off, but he shrugged it off. And after a few awkward minutes, he managed to wrangle the chest plate onto his frame. It was heavier than he expected, like the weight of history itself had been packed into each inch of the metal. For a moment, he seemed like a child trying to wear his father's oversized clothes. The armor didn't seem to fit him, at least, not yet. "You good?" she asked, fighting back a smile. "I think so," he said, voice muffled by the helmet he was now attempting to pull over his head. "This thing is a lot more complicated than it looks." "Just wait until it adjusts to you," she replied. "That's when it gets interesting." For a moment, nothing happened. He stood there, shifting uncomfortably, looking like a fool in a suit that didn't belong to him. She was almost starting to think that maybe she had been right all along. It was just a joke, after all. But then, the air shifted. She felt it before she saw it, a pulse of energy, subtle at first, but growing stronger. The metal of the armor seemed to respond, reshaping itself, shifting in ways that defied logic. The patterns etched into its surface began to glow, brighter and brighter, until the entire suit seemed to hum with life. He started, voice shaky. "I think something's happening." The glow intensified, and for a brief moment, she saw it. The way his eyes changed, widening as he seemed to come alive in a way that shouldn't have been possible. His body was tense, every muscle locked in a strange rhythm, as though he were being pulled in multiple directions at once. It was the armor, no, it was him. The armor had chosen him, or perhaps he had chosen it. Either way, something was awakening, something buried deep inside him, far deeper than she had anticipated. She took a step back, heart pounding in her chest. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not like this. Humans weren't meant to connect with the armor. It wasn't their time yet, but it was too late. "Are you ... okay?" she asked, her voice a mix of awe and fear. His lips parted, but the words that came out weren't what she expected. They weren't even in English. The sound was foreign, ancient, and alive, a language that hadn't been spoken in millennia, and for the first time in her existence. She realized that she might have just made a mistake that could cost them both everything. The sound hung in the air like a living thing, strange, heavy, and ancient. It wasn't just a word. It was a vibration that seemed to hum through the walls, through her bones, through the very air around them. She froze, every instinct screaming at her to do something, but she couldn't move. It was as if time itself was holding its breath. The light from the armor pulsed again, brighter this time. It spilled across the floor in shifting waves, illuminating the room in an otherworldly glow. The air grew thick, the temperature dropping, and the faint hum deepened into something like a heartbeat. She recognized that rhythm. It was the same pulse that echoed through the ancient vaults of her homeworld. The same energy that had once powered entire cities. But it shouldn't have been possible here, not in this world, not in him. He stumbled forward, bracing himself against the wall. The armor clung to him like it was alive, molding itself tighter around his body. The glowing patterns on its surface rearranged into a new configuration. Symbols she hadn't seen in ages, symbols reserved for the highest of her kind. Those who had once commanded armies and wielded power that could shape planets. "Hey," she said quietly, trying to keep her voice steady. "Listen to me. You need to take it off. Now." He turned toward her, his eyes faintly glowing with the same light as the armor. I can't," he whispered, his voice trembling. "It's like it's inside me. I can feel it everywhere." She took a careful step closer, fighting to keep her composure. She couldn't let him see her panic. "That's not possible," she said under her breath. "You shouldn't even be able to activate it." His gaze darted to her, fear and confusion mixing in his expression. "What do you mean?" "You said it was just for fun." I didn't think it would respond to you." She snapped, louder than she intended. Her words echoed off the walls, and she quickly lowered her voice. "Listen to me. That armor not meant for humans. It's a relic from my people. It was designed to respond only to specific genetic markers, ones that don't exist in you." He took another unsteady step toward her, and the ground trembled faintly beneath his feet. It was subtle, but she felt that the energy radiating from him was spreading. "Then why is it working?" he asked. She didn't have an answer. Back on her world. The armor had belonged to one of the first Guardians warriors chosen to protect the heart of their civilization. When they died, their armor was sealed away, locked under layers of energy barriers that no ordinary being could bypass. It was more than just protection. It was a vessel storing fragments of their power, their memories, their essence, to where it was to awaken what had been lost. But humans weren't compatible with that kind of energy. Their bodies were fragile, their minds untrained for such power. By all logic, the armor should have burned him alive the moment it recognized what he was. And yet, he stood there, breathing hard, but still conscious, still alive. "Maybe it's broken," he said, half joking, trying to steady his breathing. "Broken," she repeated, shaking her head. "No, it doesn't break. It adapts, it learns, and right now, it's trying to figure out what you are." He didn't respond, but she could see the shifting glow beneath his skin, like veins of light tracing through him. Something inside the armor was reaching deeper, sinking with his body in ways that defied every law of science or logic she knew. Then he winced, clutching at his chest. "It's hot. It's burning." She rushed forward, reaching out to pull the chest plate off. But the moment her fingers touched the metal, a surge of energy shot through her, forcing her back. The air rippled, and she stumbled, gasping as the shock left her trembling. Her hands were smoking faintly, but not burn-repelled. The armor had rejected her. "No, no, no," she muttered, backing away. "That shouldn't happen." He looked at her, terrified. "What's happening to me?" She met his eyes, and for the first time since she came to Earth, she didn't have an answer. "Something that shouldn't be possible," she whispered. The light finally began to dim, but it didn't vanish. It sank into him, fading beneath his skin like it had been absorbed. The metal softened, losing its glow, and the symbols etched across it stilled, frozen in place. He collapsed to his knees, breathing hard, the sound of his heartbeat echoing faintly through the floor. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The room was quiet again, but the silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, charged with a sense of something waiting just beyond understanding. When he finally looked up at her, his eyes were different. Still human, but sharper, more aware. "I think," he said softly, "it's gone." She studied him carefully. "No, it's not gone. It's inside you now." He frowned, confused. "Inside me? What does that mean?" She hesitated. "It means that whatever was sleeping in that armor woke up, and it chose you." He let out a weak laugh. "Chose me? I'm just a guy. Why would it choose me?" She didn't answer right away. The truth was, she didn't know. But there was something in him, something buried deep, that resonated with the armor's energy. It shouldn't have been possible, and yet, "It doesn't choose randomly," she said finally. "It must have recognized something in you." "Like what?" She looked at him for a long time. "Something ancient," she murmured. He shook his head, still trying to make sense of it all. "So what now? You're telling me I've got alien armor fused into my body? Am I supposed to just go to work tomorrow like nothing happened?" "You can't tell anyone about this," she said sharply. "No one. If anyone finds out what you've become, what's inside you, they'll come for you. And they won't stop." He stared at her, the reality of her words sinking in. "Who's they?" "My people," she said quietly. "And others?" There are factions that would do anything to reclaim what you just woke up. He swallowed hard. So you're saying I'm in danger? She nodded. More than you can imagine. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the windows. The world went on as if nothing had changed, as if the balance of power in the galaxy hadn't just shifted in one small, forgotten room on Earth. But she knew better. She could feel it. The armor's awakening had sent a ripple across the stars, an energy signal that others would detect. It was only a matter of time before someone came looking. And when they did, they wouldn't care that he was human. He stood up slowly, flexing his hands. For a moment, faint trails of light flickered along his skin, like the armor was still trying to communicate. "You said it's alive," he murmured. "Can it hear us?" She hesitated, then nodded. "In a way. It's bound to you now. It will listen, but it may not obey." He gave her a wary look. "That's comforting." "I'm serious," she said, stepping closer. "It was created for beings who could control their thoughts completely. If you lose focus, if you let fear or anger take over, it could turn against you. It doesn't understand restraint. It only understands survival." He met her gaze, the weight of her words settling in. "Then you need to teach me how to control it." She blinked. "You don't understand what you're asking." "Ha, I don't care," he said firmly. "If this thing is inside me, I can't just ignore it. I need to know what it is, what it wants." She stared at him, realizing that the same stubborn determination that made humans both dangerous and remarkable was now staring her in the face. "You don't realize what this means," she said softly. "If the armor bonded to you, then something far older than both of us has chosen Earth, and that means the others will come." He frowned. "Others?" She turned toward the window, her gaze fixed on the dark sky. Somewhere out there, she knew the signal had already reached the stars. "Guardians," she whispered, "and hunters. They'll sense the awakening. And when they do, they'll come to take back what's theirs." The faint glow beneath his skin pulsed once, as if answering her words. He took a slow breath. "Then I guess we don't have much time." She looked back at him, her expression unreadable. For a moment, she thought about warning him again, telling him to run, to hide. But deep down, she knew it wouldn't matter. The armor had already made its choice. And now, whether he wanted it or not, humanity was part of something far bigger than either of them could control. The hum in the air returned quieter this time, like a whisper only they could hear. It sounded almost like a promise, or a warning. The nights after the awakening were never truly quiet again. Even when the world outside seemed calm, there was always that faint hum, deep, steady, like something alive breathing through the walls. He couldn't tell if it came from the armor or from himself anymore. Sometimes it was so soft he almost forgot it was there. But other times, when his thoughts drifted too far or his heart started racing, it would flare up. A pulse of light and warmth spreading through his chest like a heartbeat that wasn't his own. He tried to go back to his normal life. He went to work, met friends, laughed at their jokes, but everything felt distant, muffled. Every sense was sharper now, the world brighter, sounds clearer, time somehow slower. He could see tiny details he'd never noticed before, like the micro scratches on a glass or the way the air shimmered faintly under sunlight. He didn't tell anyone what had happened. He wanted to pretend it was just a dream. But when he caught his reflection in the mirror, he'd see faint glimmers of light beneath his skin and knew it was real. She stayed close. He could tell she was watching him, not just with curiosity, but with a kind of unease she tried to hide. They'd moved the armor war, what was left of it, to her workshop, a place filled with alien-looking devices, blueprints, and fragments of old technology she had been studying for decades. The armor itself was no longer solid metal. It had fused with him, leaving behind only a hollow shell. like a snake's shed skin. One evening, she found him staring at it. Lost in thought, "You keep looking at it like it's going to explain something to you," she said quietly. He didn't turn around. "It feels like it's part of me now, like it's alive in there. Sometimes it feels awake." She studied him for a moment before replying. "It is." The armor was designed to merge with the spirit of its bearer. It carries fragments of thought, memory, instinct. It's probably still adjusting to you, to this world. He frowned. "You said before it shouldn't even be possible for me to use it." "I did. Then why me?" She hesitated, her expression distant. "I've been thinking about that." When the armor bonded with the first Guardians, it didn't just respond to genetics, it responded to energy patterns. It sought minds capable of balance, of clarity. But you're human. Your kind's energy is ... different. It's chaotic, unpredictable. Maybe that's why it bonded at all. Maybe it found something it's never seen before. He turned to face her. "So what you're saying is, I'm an experiment." "Not an experiment," she said carefully. "An accident. But maybe not a bad one." He let out a short laugh. "Yeah, sure. Just a walking alien weapon stuck inside a guy who can barely fix his car." She almost smiled, but her eyes were serious. "You're underestimating yourself. That armor chose you for a reason. But we don't have time to figure out why. I've been tracking signals interference patterns in the electromagnetic field. Something's moving toward Earth." He stiffened. "You mean your people?" "I'm not sure yet," she said. "But whatever it is, it's coming fast. And it's looking for what you're carrying." The room fell silent again. Outside, rain began to fall in steady sheets, tapping against the windows. He looked down at his hands. "So we run." "You can't run from them," she said quietly. "If they've already detected the signal, the entire sector will know soon. There's nowhere to hide." He sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Then what do we do?" "We prepare," she said simply, "and we hope they don't find us first." That night, he couldn't sleep. The hum inside him was louder than usual, restless, like it was aware of what was coming. He tried to meditate, to clear his thoughts, but flashes of strange images kept pushing through shadows of battles. Landscapes of glass and fire, towering figures in silver armor moving in perfect formation. None of it made sense, yet it all felt familiar. When morning came, he told her about the visions. She listened carefully, her expression darkening as he spoke. "Those aren't dreams," she said. "They're memories from the armor's past bearers. It's showing you pieces of their history. So it's trying to tell me something. Or warn you," she said. They spent the following days trying to understand the connection. She set up tests, scanning his vitals, mapping the energy fluctuations that surged through his body. The results made no sense. Every reading suggested his biology was changing, adapting to maintain balance with the armor's energy. It wasn't killing him. It was transforming him. But the more they studied, the more she began to worry. Every spike of energy that came from him was detectable. Even if she shielded the workshop, it wouldn't be enough forever. Something out there would notice by the end of the week. Her fears were confirmed. She was working late when her sensors picked up an anomaly-an object entering the atmosphere at impossible speed. She rushed outside, staring into the dark sky. For a few seconds, a streak of light tore across the horizon, then vanished. She found him waiting by the window when she returned, the faint glow already pulsing beneath his skin. "They're here, aren't they?" he said. She nodded. "A scout ship, most likely. They'll be searching for the source of the signal. We have to move." "Move where?" "Someplace they won't think to look," she said. "Somewhere remote." They left before sunrise, driving into the mountains, far from cities and networks. But even as they climbed higher, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being followed. Every sound seemed sharper. Every gust of wind, too deliberate. When they finally stopped, he turned to her. "You're not telling me everything." She looked away. "There's something I didn't mention. If they find us, they won't just come for the armor. They'll come for me too. I wasn't supposed to leave my world with it. I broke every law my people have." He stared at her. "Why?" "Because they were going to destroy it," she said quietly. "They were afraid of what it could do if it fell into the wrong hands. But I believed it still had a purpose. I wanted to study it, to understand it. I thought if I kept it hidden long enough, maybe the knowledge it held could help rebuild what we lost." "What did you lose?" She hesitated, her gaze distant. "Everything. Our world was once united by the Guardians, the ones who wore armor like yours. But when they began to evolve beyond us, fear turned to war. The armor didn't destroy us, but the power it gave them did." He looked down, his mind spinning. "And now it's inside me." "Yes," she said softly. "And that's what terrifies me most." Before he could answer, the ground trembled. A low, resonant hum filled the air, the same sound he'd been hearing inside himself. Only now it was coming from the sky. She grabbed his arm. "They found us. We have to go." They ran toward the ridge, the sound growing louder until a shape broke through the clouds, a sleek silver vessel, moving silently above the tree line. It hovered for a moment before beams of light swept across the ground. "Can they see us?" he whispered. "Not yet. The armor's energy is masking us, but it won't last long." "Then what do we do?" She looked at him, her eyes filled with something that wasn't quite fear. "You need to let it wake fully. If we're going to survive this, you have to let it take over." He hesitated. "You said that was dangerous." "Well, it is. But if you don't, we die." The light from the ship brightened, scanning closer. He could feel the energy building in his chest, the hum turning into a roar. His heart raced, and the armor watt was left of a trestin. Lines of light crawled across his skin, and the ground beneath him began to vibrate. "Focus!" she shouted over the noise. "Don't fight it. Let it know what you want." He closed his eyes, trying to steady his breath. The energy surged through him like a wave of heat, pushing at the edges of his mind. He thought it would consume him, but then something shifted. The fear melted into focus, the chaos into control. He could see the energy around him, the shape of the ship, the pulse of its engines, the metallic heartbeat of the alien technology overhead. He opened his eyes, and for a moment, they glowed with the same silver light as the armor once had. The ship froze, its beams stuttering. The hum in the air faltered. She looked at him, stunned. "You're controlling it," she breathed. "You're interfacing with their systems." "I can feel them," he said, voice steady but low. "They're searching, ... but they don't know where to look." "Then use it," she urged. "Hide us." He focused again, willing the light to bend around them, the air to shimmer. And somehow, impossibly, the ship's beam shifted away. A moment later, it passed over the ridge and disappeared into the clouds. When the noise faded, silence returned, heavy, electric, and full of unspoken questions. He turned to her slowly. "What just happened?" She stared at him, still catching her breath. "You didn't just hide us. You connected with their technology. The armor's energy, it's evolving. You're doing things even the Guardians couldn't." He looked out at the horizon where the ship had vanished. "Then they'll come back." "Yes," she said softly. "And next time, they'll bring more." The wind carried the last echo of the hum, fading into the distance. Neither of them spoke again for a long time. But deep inside, both knew that whatever had started when he put on that armlet was only the beginning. The days that followed were a blur of motion and silence. Every sound in the mountains seemed sharper, every shadow heavier with meaning. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched not just by her people, but by the armor itself. Sometimes, late at night, he would wake to find faint trails of light crawling across his skin, tracing symbols he didn't understand. It never hurt, but it left him uneasy. Like something inside him was trying to communicate in a language his mind wasn't built to know. She had set up a new base deep inside, a forgotten mining tunnel carved into the rock decades ago. It was cold, damp, and dark, but the walls helped shield their energy signature. She worked constantly, calibrating scanners and rerouting signals to keep them hidden. He tried to help, though half the time he didn't understand what she was doing. Still, he could see the strain wearing on her. The normally calm and confident alien girl had grown quiet, her eyes always distant. Calculating. One evening, she sat across from him near the glow of an old lantern. The silence stretched between them until she finally spoke. "They're closer." He froze. "How do you know?" She tapped her wristband, and a faint projection flickered in the air, 3 bright signals moving slowly across a grid. Scout vessels. Small, but powerful. They're sweeping the atmosphere, tracing the residual energy from your activation. Once they triangulate your position, they'll send a retrieval unit. And if they find us, they won't take you alive, she said softly. He swallowed hard. "You think I can fight them?" She hesitated, then nodded. "You might not have a choice." He stared at the holographic map, watching the signals drift closer together like jaws closing in. "You said the armor bonded to me. If that means it's alive, maybe it doesn't want to be taken either." "Maybe," she said. "But it doesn't understand mercy. It only understands purpose." The wind outside howled through the tunnels, carrying with it the faint rumble of thunder. For a moment, the sound felt too rhythmic, too controlled. She turned off the projection and stood. "Pack what you can. We move again." They didn't make it far. Half an hour later, the sky split open with a blinding light. The roar that followed wasn't thunder red, was an atmospheric breach. A sleek silver ship broke through the clouds, descending with terrifying speed. The earth trembled beneath their feet as it landed on the valley floor below. She grabbed his arm. "Run." They scrambled up the slope, rocks sliding beneath their boots. The light from the ship swept across the mountainside, cutting through the dark like a blade. They ducked behind a ridge, hearts pounding. He risked a glance. The ship was smaller than he expected, no larger than a fighter jet, but its movements were precise, deliberate. 3 figures emerged from it, clad in armor that shimmered with the same silver light as his own once did. He felt it before he saw them, the strange hum deep in his chest. Like the armor inside him was reacting to their presence. "They're Guardians," she whispered. "Elite retrieval units. I didn't think they'd send them this fast. What do they want from me?" "They want what's inside you," she said, "and they'll tear you apart to get it." The figures began to spread out, scanning the ground with devices that glowed faintly blue. Every movement was methodical, almost ritualistic. The hum inside him grew stronger, syncing with their steps like a call and response. He clenched his fists, trying to suppress it. But the light beneath his skin pulsed brighter with each passing second. "They can sense me," he said through gritted teeth. "It's pulling toward them." She turned to him, desperate. "You have to fight it. Think of something else, anything." "I can't," he said, voice trembling. "It's too strong." She looked toward the ridge. The Guardians were moving faster now. "Then we split up. I'll lead them away. You head east. Find the old signal tower near the cliffs. There's an emergency beacon hidden there. Use it if I don't make it back." He shook his head. "No way. I'm not leaving you. This isn't about me." She snapped. "You don't understand what's coming. If they get their hands on you, it's over for both of us." Before he could argue, the mountain lit up. A blast of energy tore through the ridge above, throwing both of them to the ground. The sound was deafening. Dust and rock rained down as the air filled with static. Through the haze, he saw one of the guardians descending toward them, light rippling from its armor like liquid fire. She staggered to her feet, shouting something he couldn't hear. The guardian raised a hand, and a beam of energy cut through the air, grazing her shoulder and sending her spinning backward. He didn't think. The moment he saw her fall, something inside him broke open. The hum in his chest turned into a roar. The light beneath his skin erupted outward, forming thin streams of energy that circled his body like living threads. He felt no pain, only power raw, alive, untamed. The guardian hesitated, and in that instant, the armor inside him responded. Without realizing it, he moved. The ground cracked beneath his feet as he launched forward, closing the distance in a blur. The guardian swung, its weapon sparking against his forearm, but the blow barely registered. He caught the weapon's shaft, twisted, and threw the armored figure backward into the rocks. The impact echoed through the valley when the dust settled. He was standing in a small crater, breathing hard, light still coursing through his veins. She pushed herself up, staring at him with wide eyes. "Yo, did you do that?" He shook his head, dazed. "I didn't. It just happened." The other two guardians appeared at the ridge above, their armor glowing brighter. He felt their energy pressing down on him like a weight. The air shimmered with heat. "They're calling for reinforcements," she said urgently. "We have to move now." He looked back toward the downed guardian. It was stirring, its armor reassembling itself as if nothing had happened. "They're not going to stop." "No," she said grimly. "They won't." They ran, weaving through the rocky paths, every sense on edge. Energy blasts tore through the trees, sending fragments of bark and stone flying around them. She guided him toward a narrow pass between two cliffs. "This way. There's a cave system ahead." He followed, heart pounding, but the humming inside him had changed again. It wasn't fear anymore. It was awareness. Every motion of the guardians behind them echoed in his mind, as if the armor was mapping their movements for him. He turned just as a beam shot past, deflecting it instinctively with a sweep of his arm. The energy dissipated into sparks that curled harmlessly into the air. She glanced back, astonished. "It's protecting you, not just me," he said. "Us." They reached the cave entrance and slipped inside, the darkness swallowing them. The tunnel twisted downward, narrow and uneven. The deeper they went, the quieter it became, and only the faint hum of the armor remained. When they finally stopped to catch their breath, she turned to him, voice low but urgent. "You need to understand something. If you keep using that power, it's going to consume you. The armor doesn't share control, it takes it." He looked at his hands, the light fading slowly. "Then how do I stop it?" "You don't," she said. "You learn to live with it. But if you lose focus for even a second, it'll make choices for you. Choices you can't take back." He met her gaze, the weight of her words settling in. "Then I need to learn faster." Before she could reply, the tunnel shuddered. A beam of light sliced through the rock above them, sending chunks of stone cascading down. He pushed her aside just as a guardian dropped through the ceiling, landing between them in a shower of dust. Its armor gleamed brighter than the others, its eyes burning with cold purpose. It wasn't just another soldier, it was something higher, something older. She froze. "That's not a retrieval unit," she whispered. "That's a warden." The warden raised its arm, a ring of light forming in its palm. "Unauthorized bearer," it said, its voice echoing in both their minds. "Return the relic, or face termination." He stepped forward, fists clenched. "You'll have to take it." The warden tilted its head, studying him. "You are incompatible. The relic will consume you. Your existence is irrelevant." He could feel the armor reacting again. the pulse inside him aligning with the warden's. It was as if two halves of a broken circuit were trying to reconnect. She pulled him back. "Don't engage it. You can't win." But something in him refused to listen. "If I run now, it never ends," he said quietly. "They'll just keep coming." The warden's energy flared, and the cave filled with blinding light. The hum inside him reached its peak, and for the first time, he felt the armor not as something separate, but as part of his own heartbeat. The ground split, energy coursing through the walls, and as the light exploded between them, the last thing he heard was her voice shouting his name before the world dissolved into white, and then silence. When the light faded, everything was still. The sound, the heat, the pressure, all of it vanished in an instant. For a few seconds, there was only silence and the faint smell of dust. He opened his eyes slowly, blinking against the afterglow. The cave was gone. The walls that had surrounded them moments before had been reduced to fragments of stone, suspended in mid-air like frozen debris in zero gravity. He was standing at the center of it all, surrounded by faint strands of light weaving through the space like veins of energy. Across from him, the warden knelt on one knee, its armor cracked and flickering. Its eyes, once sharp with precision and command, dimmed to a soft gray. The air vibrated with the low hum of the armor still pulsing under his skin. But now it felt ... calmer. Controlled, she was there too, a few meters away, pushing herself up from the rubble. Her clothes were torn, her face streaked with dust, but she was alive. When their eyes met, she froze for a heartbeat before exhaling in relief. He looked down at his hands. The glow had faded almost completely, leaving faint lines like scars across his skin. He could feel the power still inside him, but it wasn't wild anymore. It felt steady, like it had finally stopped fighting him. The warden raised its head, its voice weaker now, but still clear. "Impossible. The relic has stabilized." Within a human host, she stepped closer, cautious. He's not just a host anymore. It bonded with him completely. The warden's gaze flicked to her, then back to him. "You broke the laws of the Covenant when you took this relic. You knew the consequences." "I did," she said quietly. "But I also knew our world would never change if it kept destroying what it feared." He watched the two of them, so different, yet somehow bound by the same history. "She saved it," he said. "And maybe she saved you too." The warden tilted its head, processing his words. "You carry knowledge beyond your design. The relic has shared its memory with you. I've seen what it showed me," he said. "Your war. The Guardians. What the armor was meant for. It wasn't supposed to destroy, it was meant to protect." The warden was silent for a long moment. Then it rose to its feet, unsteady but composed. "Perhaps our understanding was flawed. The relic has chosen. The Covenant will not approve, but..." It hesitated, as if considering something for the first time. "It may no longer matter. The signal has already spread." She stiffened. "You mean?" "Others will come," the warden said, "but not for conquest. They will come to see what cannot be denied. The era of separation is over." The light in its chest flickered again, fading. "Guard the relic, well human. Its legacy now belongs to your kind." Before either of them could speak, the warden's body dissolved into particles of light, scattering into the air like dust in sunlight. The cave collapsed around them, but somehow the energy cushioned the fall, lowering them gently back to solid ground. When the last glow faded, they were standing on a quiet mountainside under a gray morning sky. The ship that had brought the Guardians was gone. All that remained was silent sand, the wind whispering through the trees. For a long time, neither of them spoke. He stared at the horizon, the first rays of dawn cutting through the mist. She finally broke the silence. "It's over." He turned to her, shaking his head. "No, it's just beginning." She looked at him closely. The glow under his skin was faint but constant now, a quiet reminder of what he carried. "How much do you remember?" she asked. "Enough," he said softly. "The armor. It showed me everything. What your people lost. What they tried to protect. They weren't wrong to be afraid, but they forgot what they were fighting for." She sat down on a rock, exhaustion settling into her voice. "You sound like one of them already." "Maybe I am," he said with a faint smile. "Or maybe I'm something new." They sat there in silence for a while, the world slowly coming back to life around them. The birds returned to the trees. The distant rush of a river echoed through the valley. It was strange how normal everything looked, as if the universe hadn't just shifted a few minutes ago. Finally, she spoke again, quieter this time. "You realize what this means, don't you? The others will come looking for you. Not all of them will see you as proof of balance. Some will see you as a threat." He nodded. "Then we make sure we're ready." "We?" she asked, looking up at him. He smiled, tired but certain. "You said you broke the law to protect this thing. You didn't do all that just to walk away now." She exhaled, almost laughing under her breath. "You really are impossible. Humans usually are." She shook her head, but she didn't argue. The faintest smile touched her lips. Then, maybe impossible is exactly what the universe needs. They spent the following days repairing what they could of the equipment left behind. The shipwreckage from the Guardian skirmish had scattered fragments of alien tech across the forest. Most of it beyond repair, but a few pieces still worked. She managed to salvage a scanner and a short-range transmitter. He helped her set up a new communication, relay this time not to hide, but to send a signal of their own. "What are you sending?" he asked. "A message," she said. "Not a distress call. A declaration. That the relic lives, that it has chosen a bearer. They'll know it's true. The energy signature can't be faked." He frowned. "Won't that just attract more of them?" "Yes," she said simply. "But maybe the right ones." He nodded slowly. "So you're not running anymore?" "I'm tired of running," she said. They activated the beacon at dawn. A soft pulse spread across the sky, invisible to human eyes, but strong enough to ripple through the upper atmosphere. She said it would take weeks, maybe months, before anyone could respond. Until then, they waited. And in that waiting, something changed. The bond between them deepened, not romantic, but built on shared survival, trust, and a strange sense of destiny neither could explain. She taught him how to listen to the armor, how to separate his own thoughts from the instincts it carried. He, in turn, showed her how humans saw the world not through power or history, but through persistence, through hope. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the horizon, he looked at her and asked, "Do you think they'll ever accept it? That something ancient chose someone like me?" She looked at the fading sky before answering. "They might not have a choice. History doesn't always ask for permission." He smiled at that, then looked down at his hands, faint light tracing through his veins again. "You know, when you first handed me that armor, I thought it was just a joke." "So did I," she admitted with a small laugh. "I guess we both underestimated humanity." He turned back to the valley, watching as the last light faded. "Maybe that's what this is about," he said quietly. "Your people thought they were protecting the universe by hiding their power. But maybe it was waiting for you to remind them what they've lost." She nodded. "Compassion, curiosity, the will to keep trying." He looked at her. "To hope." They sat together in silence as the first stars appeared overhead. The world felt different, now bigger, connected to something vast and ancient, yet still deeply human. He didn't know what came next. Maybe others would come, maybe not. Maybe the universe wasn't ready to share its secrets yet. But for the first time since the armor had awakened, he wasn't afraid. He placed a hand over his chest, feeling the faint pulse beneath his skin. It was no longer foreign. It was part of him, now alien and human, past and present. United in a heartbeat that didn't belong to either world alone. She watched him quietly, her expression soft. "You realize," she said, "if this really works, if others see what we've done, it could change everything." He nodded. "That's the idea." The night deepened, the stars stretching across the sky like threads of silver. Somewhere out there, he knew others were watching, listening, waiting. The signal they'd sent would reach them eventually. Maybe it would bring peace. Maybe it would bring war. But either way, something new had begun. The armor inside him hummed once, faint but steady, like a whisper of approval. He smiled to himself and looked toward the horizon where the mountains met the stars. "Let them come," he said quietly. "This time, we'll meet them as equals." And as the wind swept through the valley, carrying the echo of his words into the open sky, it almost sounded like the universe itself was answering back.